everybody, hello and welcome. Yes, the beard has gone. It was just getting in the way, so I decided to get rid of it. But here I am. Hello, everybody. Hi, Selena. We've got PTS for Life Jeff in the chat. We have Theta Novis. How's it going? Thank you for joining us. We are going to be talking today about East Grinstead Town Council. Danielle's in the chat. Hey, Danielle. God, there's a lot of you here. Nice. So on Monday, East Grinstead Town Council held a full council meeting that I attended along with one of my fellow protesters from the IES protest in November, Austen, who I'm excited to say is here and will be coming in to join us in a second. Little bit of background for those of you who don't know. East Grinstead is a town here in the UK where St Hill is located, which is Scientology's UK headquarters. We protested outside their headquarters in November at their IES event, which is the International Association of Scientologists. I've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes trying to figure out, and I've realized that the mayor, Fraser Visser, and the council have been supporting Scientology for years and going to a number of events in support of Scientology. And I'm outraged, and a lot of locals are outraged too. So I'm working hard to try and expose that and put some pressure on the council. If you want to see the full council meeting, you can do that on my channel. There's a link in the description. Before we go on, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that sort of stuff. It helps put the video out to more people. But let's bring in Austen. So Austen, hi, welcome.
Hello, nice to see you, Alex. How you going?
Good, thank you. Thanks for joining. This is your YouTube debut, right? Welcome.
It is. Hopefully I look pretty on camera. But yeah, great to be here. Yeah, great to be here after watching, obviously, your videos for ages and protesting with you back in November. It's really good to have a chat and then go over what we've seen this week from the town council.
Yeah, absolutely. So Austen, you joined me in November at the protest and you came down with me to the stables where we interrupted the opening of their new qual building, which was hilarious. And we've been talking a little bit and you joined me on Monday and we joined the council meeting, which was good fun. Before, we're going to play some clips and we're going to go through it. But just as as an outline, what's your first feedback or thoughts or review on how the council meeting went? What did you expect? What did you take away from it?
Well, I've been to several sort of local government meetings in the past for various different things. And to be honest, they're normally really quite boring. But it was quite interesting going to this one because, as I said to you on Monday, it was almost like we spent an hour and a half where we were watching these local officials trying to skate around the elephant in the room that was Scientology and describe things all to do about their interactions and relationships with the church without ever mentioning that word, which was really quite amusing, to be honest, because you can just see how nervous, how much angst that people have about this subject, despite it being on the agenda all the time and constantly in the minds of the locals and the elected officials.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was fast. I mean, look, I didn't go to this meeting expecting them to suddenly be like, oh my God, now you're here and you've said these things, you know, thank you. We've changed everything. We're not going to go to, I didn't expect any of that at all. And what they did was almost textbook what I thought was going to happen. But I actually thought they weren't going to respond to our questions. And I'm surprised that they did. And they actually gave more of a response than I expected. And they just dug themselves into a hole. Like they didn't help.
Totally. Yeah, and the thing is, they do have an obligation to hear questions, but say there were 10 other people who had all volunteered to ask a question as well. They could choose who they wanted to put first, who they wanted to put last. And when they only have 15 minutes allotted within this time, they could have easily timed yourself or I out, knowing obviously your name. They didn't know who I was. They still don't really know who I am, but they could have timed us out. So they had to really answer. And like people are in the chat are saying, and like we saw on the night, a lot of their answers were just really generic waffle that really didn't give us much to go on. But actually, it's quite revealing nevertheless.
Yeah, no, 100%. Before we play some of these clips, I want to share this with you guys. There's a link in the description. Austen is starting a channel, so go and show him some love and subscribe. Devotion Demystified. is the channel. You literally started this channel like today, right? It's a very new.
Yeah, exactly. So my background is in religious studies, theology, philosophy. My day job is a high school teacher, so I teach about religion all the time, and that's really where my interest in new religious movements, cults, Scientology is always spawned from. So I thought it'd be interesting to have a chat about that, whether it's Scientology, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, any other of these small groups and sects, from a different perspective, and hopefully have something to add that is interesting and relevant. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, there'll be videos coming out. There's already one on there from when I was a uni student talking about Christianity. But yeah, hopefully I'll be popping some stuff out, and a new hobby on 2024 for me.
Awesome. I love it. And you're not a former Scientologist, but you are, you know, qualified to talk about religions and interested in it. And, you know, that's why you're coming out with this, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess my interest in religion, theology, cults all came from the fact that I grew up very close to East Grinstead. So I grew up in the same local authority, meaning for overseas viewers, like in the same state, essentially, in West Sussex. So I was about half an hour away from East Grinstead. A bunch of my friends growing up all came from the town. I knew, I didn't know any Scientologists personally at that time, but I did know a lot of Mormons because they have their London temple in East Grinstead. And then, yeah, as I grew up, I went to university. I studied theology as an undergrad, did a master's degree in philosophy, and now obviously I teach about it. So I do know about educational theory as well. So that's really my story in a nutshell. But yeah, hopefully it'd be interesting speaking tonight and helping out in this like SPTV community a little bit with what I can offer.
Yeah, I love it. I'm looking forward to it. Someone's just put in the chat, you've got 4 subs already. I'm sure that will go up over the next couple of days. And
Cheers.
I'll have you on more, of course. So go and show Austen some love. Let's play the first clip. So the full council meeting is available on my channel. If you want to watch the whole thing, we're just going to play some clips here. So the first one, if I've got the right link here, is the very beginning of the meeting. So the meeting was on Monday and it starts with public Q&A. As Austen mentioned, 15 minutes for us to ask whatever we want to ask. And so I was first up. I asked a question. The mayor responded, and then Austen asked a question as well. So we'll do my one first, we'll discuss, and then we'll do Austen. So this is the first clip. Let me know if there are any audio issues, by the way, in the chat if you can't hear it.
Mr. Francis?
Hi, good evening, everybody, and happy new year. Can you all hear me okay?
We can,
Yeah, fantastic. So I was locked in a room as a teenager by the Church of Scientology, and I'm aware dozens of other people have experienced abuse at their Saint Hill headquarters. What are the council doing to protect the public and especially children from abuse? And how do councillors justify attending events hosted by Scientology in light of these allegations? So first off, right, I think it's funny to note. So here's me, here's you, Austen, and
Yeah.
here is Graham Wilson, who's the commanding officer of OSA, the Office of Special Affairs. So he's in charge of all of Scientology's dirty tricks, PR image, and all that sort of stuff. They're in the public gallery with us. So it's kind of funny that he's the only one that doesn't have his camera turned on. He is not my biggest fan. He was there. He didn't say anything. He, in fact, ran away and cowered away, faced with suppression, which is hilarious because the policy is to confront and chatter. He didn't communicate with us, but, you know, funny. Question, what are your thoughts on the question, first off, Austen, that I asked? Like, I think it was a fairly reasonable question, right?
It was a reasonable question, and I think it's quite telling of the mayor's answer that we'll get to in a minute about how pernickety and how he always wanted to sidestep it from the off. It's emotional because you've already just come in with the fact that you've got a real life story, but it's not like that is a single event. It's not something that they're unaware of because there's been barrages of stories over the years of abuse at St. Hill. You'd have to be living under a rock not to know about that, especially living in the town with the highest population of Scientologists in the whole of the UK anyway. So yeah, obviously they've got something to answer there. So let's have a look at the mayor's answer and see what he has to say on that.
Thank you very much for your questions there, and thank you for coming on. Really in public question time, we only really accept one question. there were kind of two very, very different and quite in-depth questions there. Which one would you like us to really focus on there?
First off, right, that's a lie. I've watched every full council meeting that East Grinstead Town Council have done in the last 5 years, or however long they've published them online. And there have been multiple people who have asked several questions. So that was a lie, but I didn't pull them up on it. I was like, okay, let's start with the first one in that case. You know, what are the council doing to protect people and especially children from abuse at St. Hill in light of these allegations?
Thank you. I think that's quite a complex question to answer without any pre-warning to that question.
Sorry, I'm going to keep interrupting here because it's not a complex question. What are you doing to safeguard your community? There shouldn't be a complex answer to that. And secondly, without any pre-warning, I've been talking to people and have been shouting about this for months, right? And the mayor has every single email that I've sent him, and he definitely had pre-warning. He didn't know the wording of the exact question, but he knew that I was coming to the event. He's had months to prepare for an answer. He knew exactly the sort of thing I would ask. So I think that was a complete cop-out, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was a cop-out. And not only that, to be honest, like, as an elected official, anyone working in a public service in the UK, you got to know like your safeguarding ins and outs, especially when your remit is, yes, it is to do with planning, it is to do with potholes and the mundane sort of aspects of town life, but you do need to know about how you protect vulnerable people, including children. So he could have given a robust answer. He definitely should, if he already does not, know what his safeguarding policy is and the sort of framework that one has to work through if there's an allegation within their remit, within their area. So it was interesting for him to sidestep this, but not only that, be pernickety in asking, oh, you did 2 questions. Like, come on, mate.
Yeah. And also, we'll see in a second, he diverts to the town clerk, Judy Holder. So the town clerk is an employee of the council. She's not an elected official. She's the person responsible for all the administration and the management and all that sort of stuff. So she's not an elected official, but she is the one that he turns to for an answer, which I think is a poor demonstration of leadership skills, considering the mayor is meant to be leading this whole thing. And he turns to the clerk for an answer. But here, let's carry on.
As any allegations towards that would need to be legally referenced for us to make a response to. Town Clerk, would you like to?
Also, sorry again, but like, I'm not asking for him to comment on the allegations. I'm asking him to tell me what the council are doing to protect people, not comment on the allegations, right?
Exactly. That was actually a note that I had down as well, where he says it has to be legally referenced. I don't think there needs to be a legal reference in order for him to comment generally on the council's safeguarding abilities. Not at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. That's exactly what I was thinking. 100%.
Well, the only thing I can say is that the town council are not the public authority who deal with protection of adults, protection of children. Obviously, that comes under West Sussex County Council. However, if the town council were aware and had concerns of that nature, then obviously the town council would report those as appropriate to the appropriate authority. I don't know there's much else I can really say, Chair. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I think you're right. I think the town council isn't the right authority for that. But if you do have any questions or concerns, then you can obviously raise them through the official channels, through the clerk, and then we can take that up with West Sussex. You can take that up further on your behalf if you wanted to.
Thank you very much. So, complete cop-out, right?
It was. And it's funny how he said, if you have any questions or concerns, you can raise that through the official channels. Is this not an official channel to raise it through? A public question and answer? No?
And also, like I said, I sent the mayor an email in November telling him my story and linking him in December to the St. Hill Stories videos that I did with personal testimony of people that have gone through stuff at St. Hill. Like, he is fully aware of this. And the clerk just said, if we're made aware of something, we will report it to the official channels. That, again, it's a lie, because they haven't. That's not what they've done. In fact, they've ignored all of the reports they've received about this. Now, they're not the authority that you should go to report these issues. Like, that is the police, and there's a system in place. However, as a local government official, if they do become aware of something like this, surely they have a duty to take it up and report it rather than just not do anything, right? So it's not that you should report to them, but if they receive reports, they have a duty of care, right?
Yes, exactly. It's the same, like I said, with any public service. I don't know if it would be stipulated within the code of conduct, but I'm sure East Grinstead Town Council will have a safeguarding policy or a protection of vulnerable people sort of policy, in which it will specify a direct pathway, whether you have a direct like allegation, whether you have or just a general suspicion of something going on through the work that you do on behalf of a government or people, there will be a way of which in reporting that. So dare I say, if they were contacted by a member of the public about a certain incident or incidents that they thought was about child protection, they would still have a duty of care in order to report that through that pathway, whether that is through like Q&A like this, or generally like through a YouTube series or an open letter, perhaps. If you get what I mean. They know that they should be maybe reporting this. I'm not, I don't know the ins and outs of their specific policy, but there's definitely more that they can do here.
Yeah, and as Pocono Pluck says, even a "we'll look into it" would be better. There was no acknowledgement of what I said about being locked in the room. They didn't go, "Oh, that sounds really horrible," or we're sorry to hear that, or that's something we'll look at. No acknowledgement at all. Just, "Oh, we can't comment. It's not our responsibility."
Yeah, and you know what? They could just be the classic politicians and like not even like be taking a side in any of this. Not like trying to say, "Oh, that sounds terrible," or like add opinions to that. They could say, "Yeah, we can bring that up in the relevant people or office or whatever," and that wouldn't offend anyone. I'm sure it would offend maybe Scientology, but it ought not to, because if there's an allegation against an individual, they can give that same political answer, and there's no harm done.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get on to your question because you were next, right? So let's crack on. Here we go.
Thank you. I believe we have another question as well.
Cool. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. And good evening, everyone. My question is wordy, but it is distilled to one question, so please hear me out. So in the run-up to the Church of Scientology's International Association of Scientologists event in November 2000.
Can I just say, I loved everyone's reaction there when you said Scientology, and then the guy leaned back. They were like, "Oh, another one." Hilarious.
No, it's hilarious, isn't it?
2023, church officials at St Hill failed to give the required 6 weeks notice for a premises license to the licensing authority. Breaching such conditions is considered a serious offence with a possible fine of up to £20,000 and or 6 months imprisonment stipulated under the Licensing Act. Yet despite this breach, the Church of Scientology received merely an advisory email to give notice in the future. Section 10.1 of the Local Government Association Model Code of Conduct, which I know is on the agenda this evening, states that councils should not accept gifts or hospitality, irrespective of estimated value, which could give rise to real or substantive personal gain, or a reasonable suspicion of influence to show favour from people seeking to acquire, develop, or do business with a local authority. So this, in my mind, raises questions about the relationship between the Church of Scientology and elected officials generally. Therefore, my question is such: to what extent do councillors agree that the continued attendance of Church of Scientology events, such as the Christmas light switch on, and the receipt of gifts, including charitable donations, risk undermining the integrity of the council and bringing councillors into disrepute?
Can I just say, excellent question, Austen. Like, really well worded, well researched. You quoted their own code of conduct. I was impressed with that.
Well, no, the reason why I wanted to quote that code of conduct verbatim was because it was on the agenda for the evening. And like we said at the start of this call, they skirt around the Scientology word without actually saying it. Well, the code of conduct that they talk about is section 10 about gifts and hospitality. And it's worth saying as well, that is like a model framework that they've adopted from the Local Government Association model code of conduct, which is relevant for this because as we're finding in the article, it is relevant. They try and say that it may not be. It's relevant because that will also apply to the local authority that deal with licensing, which I know is Mid Sussex District Council, isn't it? But I'm sure they adopt the same framework. But also it applies to individual actions of the elected officials on this council. So it is directly relevant. So they can't really like try and get away from this. They have to respond to it. So let's look at their response, because it's interesting.
Absolutely. And just letting everyone know, we are looking at the comments. I'm starring them. I'm bringing some of them up as we go along, but we'll bring the rest up towards the end, and we'll discuss. Let's just try and get through these clips first. So thank you everyone for your comments. They're not being ignored.
Thank you. So again, a long question. Without prior notice, that there's a lot to think about in a very short period of time. I believe that through the standards from Mid Sussex, your question, part of your question has already been answered, and that we have a robust system in place, which is actually going to be further discussed tonight, about gifts and donations that we are fully in compliance with.
I'm just going to pause because I find this hilarious, right? This lady here with her head in her hand is the leader of the council. She's the one that's actually in charge of the whole council. And I just find it funny that this whole time we're talking about Scientology, she's literally like, oh God, no. Yeah. It's hilarious. But let's carry on, sorry.
All regulatory bodies about that, and all declarations are fully clear, transparent, and disclosed by all councillors that attend any event. In regards to charity checks, that is obviously quite common for charity checks to be collected and received by councillors on behalf of charities. In fact, tonight we are handing out checks to Sports Council awardees. So I'm not sure how charities give influence in that way, can be influenced that way, and that's quite general and quite normal conduct for local authorities up and down the country. We represent all members of our community and do so evenly and even-handedly. So I thank you for your question, and I hope that those answers do answer it slightly for you, but they are quite complex and quite tricky questions there. But thank you, and thank you both for coming in and giving your time tonight to ask those questions. We do appreciate all public participation. Thank you.
So again, completely avoided the question. What you were essentially asking was, do you feel that it's appropriate to be going to Scientology events when their policy is to infiltrate and influence local government? That's essentially what you're asking, right? And essentially he was like, well, we've got a policy in place and blah, 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 blah. Just complete non-answer.
Exactly. He's just giving the general stick that you would imagine he's doing, just throwing the book at it really to avoid it. I was interested in, maybe you can answer this question for me, Alex. When he refers to the standards from Miss Sussex regarding whatever it was it the gifts he was talking about, or was it talking about the standards in Mid Sussex regarding the investigation into like the complaint that was put forward by a member of the public against him? Was that the standards he was talking about?
I think it was there's the Nolan principles, which dictate all government officials and how they have to operate, and the expectation of fairness and not being falling foul of undue influence, that sort of thing. And then like you mentioned, Mid Sussex District Council and West Sussex County Council have their own procedures and policies in place that their small town councils have to abide by. So I'm not sure exactly which he was referring to. I think he was referring to the complaints that were made against him, which basically alleged that he's bringing the office into disrepute because he's associating himself with a group whose objective is to infiltrate and influence. We're not saying that he has tried to influence decisions himself that are made by the council on behalf of Scientology. We're saying by associating himself with a group whose job, who want to infiltrate, that's bringing the office into disrepute, and that's what the problem is not that necessarily he is influencing things inappropriately, but it's inappropriate to accept gifts and hospitality from a group who are trying to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And the second point that I was querying on that was when he talks about I don't know how charities can give influence, because I know he was talking firstly about how charities will, or councillors will often go and accept donations on behalf of charities from local party members. Fair. But then he says, I don't know how charities could give influence. Well,
Yeah.
if, for example, he's working with the mayor's charity, and the mayor's charity then accepts a donation from an organisation which has charges of human trafficking against their leadership, or potentially garners money by not paying their workers or volunteers officially, then you could say that there may be influence garnered there, because, or like drawn there, because they're working with an organization which is questionable. Am I not
Again,
right?
yeah, he's missing the point, right? What he's trying to say is, how can accepting a check for a charity be a bad thing? You know, then the charities don't try and infiltrate and influence government. So that's how he's looking at it. But what he's missing is that he's accepting the check for the charity. Great, that's fine. That's a normal thing for mayors to do. But the reason that the check is being given to the charity and that he is the one accepting it is because Scientology are trying to infiltrate and influence council. If Scientology want to donate to a local charity, there shouldn't be a condition that the mayor accepts the check, right? The reason Scientology donate to local charities is because they want to be seen as positive and have a good image and say, look, we're great, we're helping the community. The reason the donation is being made is one of influence and control, and that's why it's immoral for the mayor to go and accept the charity, the check on behalf of the charity. The question, he's missing the point, right?
Exactly, he's missing the point. And you said it's immoral for him to go and collect the money on behalf of that charity. Arguably, it's immoral to be accepting money where you know it's essentially dirty and it's come from like bad resources, or through bad channels, or through shell companies from overseas or whatever. So yeah, there's a lot of questions to be asked on that, but again, he's avoiding the question.
So this is the code of conduct, right, that East Grinstead Town Council have in place. And the fifth point, disrepute. So as a councillor, I do not bring my role or local authority into disrepute. And it clarifies, as a councillor, you are trusted to make decisions on behalf of your community, and your actions and behaviour are subject to greater scrutiny than that of ordinary members of the public. You should be aware that your actions might have an adverse impact on you, other councillors, and or your local authority, and may lower the public's confidence in you or your I've just lost my place, or your local authority's ability to discharge you or its functions. For example, behavior that is considered dishonest and or deceitful can bring your local authority into disrepute. So the whole point here is that that's what Scientology are trying to do. They're deceitful, they're dishonest, and so this is behavior that can bring the local authority into disrepute. So by the mayor going and associating himself with Scientology, that's what he's doing. You are able to hold the local authority and fellow councillors to account, and are able to constructively challenge and express concern about decisions and processes undertaken by the council, whilst continuing to adhere to other aspects of the code of conduct. But he's run away from all attempts to hold him accountable, because when asked questions and asked for statements, he literally just doesn't respond, and he's blocked me on Twitter. He's not responding to any of these claims. So not only is he bringing the office into disrepute by associating with a group who are trying to be dishonest and deceitful, he's also running away from being held accountable, which is, you know, a breach of this code of conduct. That's what the complaints were made allege, that were completely shot down by the monitoring officer.
Exactly. And the thing is, he has to abide by these rules, and like it says, disrepute is when you well, the public, the wording was, the public's confidence in you falls, or it's lowered, or it's tarnished, right? And you know, that means you have to, as an elected official, think about your actions very, very carefully. Think about your actions when you are out about on the street, whether you're in Tesco's picking up your shopping every week, or whether you're accepting money, donations, doing work, going to meetings, dinner parties, whatever. All of which could be very easily avoided by these councillors if they did not engage with the Church of Scientology. And that's the point, isn't it? If they did not do any of this, then the questions we were asking on that evening wouldn't have necessarily been fully relevant, or at least the part of the meeting that we'll talk about soon, when it comes to the code of conduct and the hospitality and gifts. If they did not engage with the Church of Scientology, they would be out of at least this part of the hot water. Not all of it entirely, but at least this.
Yeah. Precisely. And it would be so much easier for them in so many ways to just not accept hospitality and gifts from the Church of Scientology. It would avoid all of this problem. And it's actually in the code of conduct to not accept gifts, right? This is the code of conduct for East Grinstead Town Council with regard to gifts and hospitality. As a councillor, I do not accept gifts or hospitality, irrespective of estimated value, which could give rise to real or substantive personal gain or a reasonable suspicion of influence on my part to show favour from persons seeking to acquire, develop or do business with the local authority, or from persons who may apply to the local authority for any permission, licence or any significant advantage. And then it talks about having to register certain gifts with values. It goes on, in order to protect your position and the reputation of the local authority, you should exercise caution in accepting any gifts or hospitality which are or which you reasonably believe to be offered to you because you are a councillor. The presumption should always be to not accept significant gifts or hospitality. However, there may be times in which case, it is appropriate. Now, that whole policy has been completely not applied and ignored because the mayor has been going to, there's 9 events that the mayor attended and hospitality and gifts that were accepted by the council from the Church of Scientology. So they're not exercising caution because the Scientology are only offering that to the mayor because he is mayor. And it says in the code of conduct not to accept gifts that you only receive because of your position. And Scientology are only offering those gifts and hospitality because they want to control and influence you. So that's the whole point, is he is clearly breaking the code of conduct. And it would just be so much easier and simpler to just not accept these gifts, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like you just read out, it should be the default position of a councillor to not accept a gift unless there's due reason to accept it. Or if, for example, if someone offers a councillor maybe a glass of wine or something at an event, then that's fine. That's not really going to be questioned. But maybe going to dare I say a movie premiere in a town that isn't even the one that you're elected to work in, from an organization that just happens to be, based in your town, I don't see why that is necessarily relevant to your role. And you would, if you were a councillor, maybe it's just me, I would, have gone and refused that gift. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, that's the whole point that we're trying to raise here is do you not think that it's more sensible to follow your own code of conduct and exercise caution, right? Which is, I just don't understand it. And it just goes to show that their policy of safe pointing has been working. Safe pointing is Scientology's policy that literally says the viability of Scientology depends on asserting control over the local area. That's what they're trying to do is safe point, make people allies of Scientology so that they're seen more favorably.
Indeed.
All right, let's skip on a little bit. I've got 3 more clips that I want to play when they're talking about the code of conduct and gifts and hospitality, because obviously we submitted complaints and it's all been brought into question, and they've been running around like headless chickens behind the scenes being like, wow, look, there's some questions here that need to be raised about who we accept gifts from and all of that. So they tabled this motion to actually change the policy on gifts and hospitality. And so I'm going to play a couple of clips from that here. Let me just get it up. This one here. It does get quite wordy and long and waffly, so I will pause it eventually. But this is when it's first brought up.
Item number 11 is a review of the standing orders, financial regulations and code of conduct. This is going to be done in 2 halves. The first half is to advise the council officers have reviewed the current standing orders, financial regulations and code of conduct, have one additional small correction to make on the financial regulation section 5 banking regulations, which I would like to take first. This came to light after the agenda was issued, but as a substantive item is on the agenda and can be considered. I'd like to propose the rewording of paragraph 5.6 of the financial regulations, page 25, which concerns who has authority to use the town council credit cards. The proposal is to change town promotion.
I'm going to skip this bit because it's a little bit boring and not really relevant to what we're talking about.
As we were going through them, the old name of the town.
with that clarification. Are there any other being submitted questions regarding standing orders that anyone
Here we go.
wishes to raise? Motions, please.
Standing orders, in discussion with the town clerk, I would like to propose the following amendments. So there's two motions here. We'll take them each in turn. So the first one is in relation to standing order 13A, and this is to insert the word being LGA Model Councillor Code of Conduct 2020.
Again, this is not really too relevant. They're just adding a little term in there.
Yeah.
But essentially, he goes on to, there's a bit of a discussion here about adjusting the policy on the amount a gift or hospitality is received and when they have to report it. And there's a whole debate over what the policy currently is and why they're changing it and so on. What was your reaction when you were in the meeting, Austen, to this whole discussion that ensued?
Well, to be honest, I think much of the discussion or the motion itself is somewhat irrelevant, because it isn't necessary. Because if you, again, like we were just talking about, err on the side of caution, if you receive any type of gift or hospitality, regardless of the monetary value, it would be good practice in order to declare it. That could be, you know, if you are sent a bottle of wine, a bar of chocolate, or even a car, you want to just make sure that you cover your back by declaring it. So when they talk about this motion and they talk about the value being reduced from £50, which is a threshold for declaring any gifts on their accounting, down to 25, I'm just thinking, well, do we really need this? And I think that's what a lot of the councillors then asked. But again, it's the whole purpose of this is to safeguard them from any allegations of financial irregularity. And yeah, we'll find out how the councillors think about this in a minute. But what did you think, Alex? What was your initial thought?
For me, it just showed huge discord in it. It demonstrated that the councillors aren't aware of their own policies, because there was a discussion, which I'm not going to play because it's lots of back and forth. It's very boring, but you can find it on the full meeting if you want to watch it. But essentially, one person, the town clerk, said the policy at the moment is that you declare any and all gifts and hospitality irrespective of the value.
Yeah.
And things over £50 go on this register, and things like, you know, there's a different, it's handled in a different way depending on the value. And then there was one councillor that said, oh, I didn't realize that, like, you know, I thought you only had to declare things over 50. You know, the councillors had a debate on their understanding of the current policy. Then they started debating the change to that policy. And it just, for me, showed that they don't know what they're supposed to be doing already. And the fact that one councillor didn't realize he had to declare everything, even if it's under £50, shows to me that maybe there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been declared over the years, because they need to do some education on their own policies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let's look at the next clips. There's two clips. There's this one first, which is, I believe, if I remember rightly, the town clerk talking about this a little bit later on. Oh, yeah. If I remember rightly, this clip is hilarious because she's referring to Scientology without making reference to it. And she's giggling because she's obviously got in her notes something to do with the code of conduct complaints that we made and this whole debacle, but she's trying not to refer to it directly. It's quite funny.
Based on the two issues that have been raised by Councillor Barnett and Councillor Peacock, the only advice that I can give is, obviously I have spoken with the monitoring officer of the District Council.
The monitoring officer is the person who handles complaints about the code of conduct when it comes to councillors. So he's the person that has ignored my request to provide evidence of the breaches of code of conduct and instead decided to issue a statement that said it's not worth investigating, before seeing all of the evidence that I tried to give him. So basically, they've obviously been talking to him, and it's been a hot topic within the council.
And Councillor Pond and I have worked on the wording to ensure that that the motion did what he was seeking for it to do. We did have a conversation about the discretionary. That's the wrong word.
She's struggling to think about, because what she wants to say is, we did have a discussion about the Scientology issue, but she's trying to figure out, how do I not say that specifically?
the interpretation of codes of conduct, the interpretation of standing orders, and it does remain and will remain, even with a change, a grey area. And it is down to each and every councillor to determine whether they feel something is affected by the code of conduct. It is down to each and every councillor to make a personal decision as to whether or not, as to the value of something that's been accepted. But first and foremost, it comes back down to what have you accepted and why have you accepted it? Is there any untoward reason behind that? And obviously, councillors, I believe, always have that high in their mind when they have anything approached to them, or they're asked to attend something, whether it be check a meet, whether it be any other event, opening of a new development or something like that. Planning, as you all know, is something that we are very, very careful about, and we're always very, very cautious. It's a difficult one. Yes, the standing orders do already have these protections in them, or alludes to them, just not quite in the prescribed manner that Councillor Pond is seeking to see a little further clarity. It's a really very much a shades of grey area. That's why we have the monitoring officer at the district. That's why there is the independent panel at the district, so that when there is concern, questions can be asked and hopefully the correct and the right advice followed.
But the problem is, when it's raised with the monitoring officer, he doesn't put it towards, he doesn't put it to the independent panel, because he sees that there's no problem, because he makes the assessment without, looking at all the evidence, and ignores the emails from the people that have made the complaints. Austen, what was going through your head when you were there listening to this?
What was going through my head, again, like I said before, was that this is really just pointless if people were to err on the side of caution and just ensure that they log everything that is given to them, regardless of the reason for it, and then they wouldn't have this problem. Not only that, I was thinking about, well, how often do councillors actually receive gifts and hospitality anyway? Like, it's like, maybe like you get an invite to go to the opening of like a new development. Even that's rare, isn't it? You've got like 20 people there, and it's rare that they get any gifts and hospitality. So it seemed like a strange thing. But as we find out, like the gifts and hospitality they do receive often come from one certain source. And it's funny, isn't it? It was hilarious just listening to that clerk just not say the word. And she refers back to Checkermead being a local theatre that they have, I guess, in the town that they talk about. Like, it's just so strange. It was just like a bit of a waste of time.
And I thought it was highly hypocritical, because what she's saying is that the councillors need to exercise caution, and if there's anything that might suggest it could be untoward, then they'll always reject it because we're using that caution. And yes, that's what they should be doing. I agree. We all agree that's what should be done. But it's not what's happening, because they are not exercising that caution. And when concerns have been raised with the monitoring officer at the district council, they are not looked at. And that is the problem, that they are skirting around.
Exactly. And I guess now the job will be to ensure that they are held to account on this, because if they're now going to be ensuring that they exercise caution regarding anything like this, gifts, hospitality or otherwise, if they're going to be aware if there's any undue reason or suspicious reason why that gift was given in the first place, given the information that you have very clearly now given them in light of the safe pointing policy, they should not attend any future Scientology events or accept any gifts, donations, hospitality from that organisation moving forward, because there's a lot of evidence to suggest that it's dodgy.
Yeah, precisely. I absolutely agree. They have the evidence. It's now on public record. Our questions are on public record. And the fact that I was locked in a room by Scientology in the UK, and there are cases of abuse that are happening at St. Hill, that is now a matter of public record. So it's now what they do with that. And if they don't do anything, which I don't think they will, it's just making them look bad.
Yeah, and if they do, because it's now on public record, any person can now use that as a case study in order to take to a monitoring officer and say, look, right, this has been put on the table, it's obviously been ignored. Therefore, there are questions to be answered from an independent panel on the code of conduct here.
Yeah, precisely. Let's look at this last clip. This one is a little bit shorter. This is only a few minutes after that last one that we watched. Again, I think if I remember rightly, this is the town clerk saying something again, but
to be very clear, this is to insert a new standing order 13A, being the LGA Model Council Code of Conduct. Sorry, we've done that bit. Apologies. It's the new 113H in respect of Code of Conduct 10.2. All gifts and hospitality accepted or refused, or of any value, should be added to the hospitality book with an estimated value of over £25. And where the amount has exceeded £50 in value, that entry should be also made in the declaration of interests within 28 days, which will then be notified to the monitoring officer by the proper officer of the council.
Okay.
So that's the change that they've made.
Mm.
Essentially, that all gifts need to be entered into the hospitality register over the value of £25, whereas before it was £50. So they have lowered, they've actually made it harder for themselves. They've actually said they now need to declare more than they were declaring before. But that's the motion that was passed at that meeting. So they will be updating their code of conduct in the next couple of days, or it's been updated. They need to obviously upload that to the website and stuff. But I think it's very telling that, you know, what we've done, we've already started to see change, because they have now changed their code of conduct as a result of our activism and the protest and the complaints and the work that you've done and everyone else that has been there at the, you know, alongside us at the protest and along this journey. It's not the end of the change, and it's not the complete change that is required, but we are starting to see change made as a result of our actions and our activism, which is great. But it's just a stepping stone. It's the first step, right?
It is, and it's nice to see that tangible change. And now, you know, East Grinstead Town Council need to put their money where their mouth is and really just ensure that they abide by this, in order to, you know, safeguard themselves from any complaints about financial regularity, anything to do with gifts, hospitality, and then the rest will follow, I guess. No harm done.
Precisely. Gail Richards here has a great question. Wasn't the donation given to where he works? That really smells funny. Yeah. So the mayor, Fraser Visser, works for Queen Victoria Hospital. That's his day job. And that's the charity that received the donation from Scientology that he accepted on their behalf as mayor. It all sounds very dodgy and questionable. And that's, you know, what the problem is here. Is the intention behind the donation, not that he received a donation for a charity. That's great. The charity aren't trying to do anything untoward. They're a hospital. They do great things. The problem is, why is Scientology getting the mayor to accept this donation? Why are they donating in the first place? Because they want to assert control and influence.
Yeah. And you know, the thing is, and I think someone else said it in the chat earlier, you could very well just have made that donation anonymously. You don't need to, you know, bring out a massive check, do it on a stage in front of however many thousand Scientologists that they had in that tent at the IES event. But they chose to do that, and the mayor decided to accept the money in that way. And that, again, is more evidence towards the fact that this donation was due to the fact that they want to exert some influence upon the local officials.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. Austen, let's get through some of these questions and comments that I've been starring.
Sure.
If you're up for that. Before I do, everyone go and check out Austen's channel, Devotion Demystified. There's a link in the description. Go and show him some SPTV love. And while you're at it, give this video a like and a comment and a subscribe and all that sort of stuff, because it helps push this out to more people. Theta Novis, lol, Dick Sweatman is here, and we do indeed have D Sweatman, aka CO Bilf. Dick Sweatman is a huge fan of Scientology. He is a councillor at the Mid Sussex District Council who used to be mayor of East Grinstead, and Scientology can't get enough of Dick Sweatman.
No. And how hilarious is it as well? Like, Dick is short for Richard. He could very easily go by his full name of Richard Sweatman, and there'd be far less jokes made about his name.
It's his choice. Yes.
Yeah, he's chosen to do that, and I'm sure he enjoys the clout that he gains from that as well.
Precisely. There's someone just asked for a link to your channel. It's in the description. I just posted it in the comment as well. in the live chat. Mark, the Dorset SP, thank you so much for the super chat. Mark also gave us a little visit at the IS protest. He was there. He's a great guy. Having watched the meeting, it was a cop-out on the council's part. 20 years working for the government. That was a total question avoidance's response. Keep pushing and go to the higher council to put pressure on the town council. 100%.
Indeed, Mark came up with some great comments throughout that, and he also mentioned about complaining to the ombudsman. And from my experience, and I guess it depends on your location, an ombudsman complaint is, although it's free and it's perfectly legitimate, it could take up to a year for them to get back to you on certain things, because they are overwhelmed by a lot of various complaints cases that they need to work on. So it could well do. See what comes up.
There's definitely stuff in the works, and as I said, this is only just the beginning. Putting pressure on the council. I know there's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks that will put some more pressure on them that I can't talk about now, but I will when it happens. It's a process. It will take time, and I think now we're in a place where our questions are on public record, and they cannot hide away from it now and claim ignorance, because it's public record. We asked the question and they deflected it.
Exactly. Small steps, and ultimately everything will be working out for the best.
Precisely. Emma Robson, thank you for the gifted memberships. That's very kind of you. Mark, the Dorset SP again, thank you for the super chat. The question should be asked: councils both in the UK and around the world returning donations from Church of Scientology due to the conduct of the church. Why does the town council think it is acceptable to accept? Precisely, that's the question that we were asking, is how can you justify accepting donations and going to Scientology events when they're a highly controversial group, that there are multiple people claiming abuse and horrible things happening at St. Hill in their own district. We're not asking the council to rule on it or come up with a decision or talk about the allegations or make some sort of judgment. Not what we're doing. No. What we're saying is the council should look at those and consider them before accepting gifts and hospitality. And I feel like the weight should be on erring on the side of caution, because that's what the code of conduct says, is be cautious. They're just not doing it.
Exactly. It's easy to be cautious anyway, and especially with the information that they have provided, with all the knowledge that they know about the church's former dealings, whether that is written in legal cases and legally referenced, like the mayor tried to allude to in his answer to my question. That doesn't matter. Err on the side of caution and think before you act is really the message that they need to take from here.
Exactly. Meerkat Moon, how are you protecting children from abuse is a pretty bloody reasonable question about any organization. Yeah, exactly. Selena here asking, when is the next meeting and can I come next time, please? Absolutely. Part of this meeting was to agree the dates for all the future meetings, and that will be on the website, the East Grinstead Town Council website, very soon. I believe the full council meetings happen every 2 months or 3 months, something like that. So it'll be a little while, but they do have smaller committee meetings that you can attend on Zoom or in person, and you don't have to be a local resident. Anyone can attend, and there's 15 minutes for questions at the beginning of each meeting. So I will be sure to update everyone when the next one is, and anyone that wants to come along, you're more than welcome to. And if you want to support the cause,
we know someone's going to be there who we like anyway. Mr. Wilson, Graham's going to be there, so the more the merrier. Ensure that he's welcomed.
Exactly. Graham Wilson, someone asked a question here. Were you surprised Graham didn't speak up at all? No, not at all. He definitely would not have said anything. He goes to a lot of these along with Liz Osterman. He was very quiet. And this person here also said, what do you think he was doing at that time? I think Graham Wilson was sat in the CLO office, which is the Continental Liaison Office, the OSA office with him, some of his colleagues perhaps watching it and probably commenting and being outraged at what I was saying. I think they were sat there watching it and coming up with a plan of attack of how they're going to fair game me as a result.
Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if the reason why his video was off was because he had it up on a big screen and there were multiple people around the table thinking about what can we do about this? What do we need to say? And documenting everything and doing as much research in real time as they could.
Yeah, precisely. 100%. And for those of you who want to support the cause, there's a link I just put in the chat. Change.org/Scientology is a petition that I started that's basically saying end the abuse in Scientology and local government support. So you can sign that petition if you want to be a part of this and help put some pressure on these people. Danielle, final question. Alex, perhaps we should organize a tabling of a House of Commons questions somehow, or attend some question times. I absolutely agree. And like I said, there's stuff in the works. There's more pressure being put on the council as we speak. And yeah, 100%. You know, it should be debated in Parliament. Mims Davies, who is the local MP for Mid Sussex and that whole area that includes St Hill and East Grinstead, she actually awarded St Hill an award for their response to the COVID pandemic, and sent them a gushing letter about how proud she is that they're part of this community, and she's a big supporter of Scientology, which I didn't realize at the time. And that's all going to be coming to light soon. So it certainly won't be her tabling any motions against Scientology, but anyone who lives in the UK who has a member of Parliament can write to them and say, hey, I'm one of your constituents, and I know Scientology aren't based in this town. However, I'm concerned about their activities in the UK, and you as a member of Parliament are here to represent me and have an obligation to raise these in Parliament. I think if enough MPs get letters like that, then they will be obliged to bring this up in Parliament. So yeah, if you're a UK resident, write to your MP.
Do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Austen, any further comments or thoughts off the back of this council meeting that you attended? What are
Any further comments?
Yeah.
Really, other than just, I think, like we said, we should take these small steps as little wins. And now, really, we need to ensure that the council, again, put their money where their mouth is, ensure that they abide by their own code of conduct. And I'm sure that they would definitely be going through any decisions that they make next time with a fine-tooth comb to ensure that they are not put, or they're not handed any complaints regarding gifts and hospitality in the future. Because if they do, then there'll be questions raised, and I'm sure there'll be many people, whether watching this video, who will be happy to raise those complaints if necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys are more of a reading kind of audience, Tony Ortega's website, The Underground Bunker, I wrote an article the other day about the meeting, so you can read my report on what happened there if you want to read that. There's a link in the description. Also take a look at scientologybusiness.com, which is my blog where I'm reporting on all this sort of stuff. I'll keep you guys updated as this progresses. We also have the opening of the Paris org happening very, very soon. More to come on that. I don't have the date. Excuse me. I don't have the date 100% confirmed just yet. I have a feeling it will be this weekend, if not next weekend, but I'm planning to go over there if I can and live stream from outside. And if I get the advance warning, it's very possible that it happens before, like it happens and then I find out afterwards. I'm trying my best to find out beforehand so I can be there. So fingers crossed we can make that happen. But it's it's good fun. There's a lot of spinning plates happening and we're just going to keep on fighting, you know. If you guys want to support the channel, as I said, go and subscribe to Austen. You can buy me a coffee with the link in the description. That helps support the channel financially. You can also like, share, subscribe. That's the best way of engagement, is what shares these videos out to more people. So thank you so much. Sign the petition, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. And I'll end it with my favorite saying for 2024, which is I'm on war footing and I'm not fucking about.